Welcome to the Milk Bottle eCommerce Show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, Ireland's top-rated and officially accredited Shopify and Klaviyo e-commerce experts. Founder Keith Matthews interviews e-commerce professionals, app developers and entrepreneurs to share as much digital knowledge and e-commerce tips and tricks as possible. This podcast is kindly supported by our go-to e-commerce tools, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify, BigCommerce, Trello and more. Let's just say it's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify store and all your valuable data. Simply go to rewind.io/milk bottle to get your first month for free. Our go-to Shopify application to supercharge in-store pickup and local delivery on your Shopify store is Zapiet. It's fully customizable and scalable from one location to thousands. Backed by outstanding customer support, it's no wonder Zapiet is trusted by over 10,000 plus stores across 150 countries. Now over to your host, Keith Matthews.
Hey folks, welcome back. Today I am thrilled to have Callum McKeefery as our guest. Callum is the CEO and founder of Reviews.io, a widely used e-commerce reviews application that can be integrated into all platforms. Callum is not just a successful SaaS entrepreneur, he's also a proud dad, a local employer in Leicester in the UK, and also a man on a mission to find cures for rare mitochondrial diseases. In this episode, we talk to Callum about his journey as an entrepreneur, the challenges he faced in building and scaling Reviews.io, and the importance of customer feedback for e-commerce businesses. We'll also delve into his personal life, his role as a dad, and the really important efforts and successes that he's had with his philanthropy. So sit back and relax and listen to Callum. Folks, I am delighted to welcome Callum McKeefery today from Reviews.io and from many other places. Callum, how are you?
I'm good. Tired, but, full of energy, I suppose. But,
good.
Everything's good.
I recognise your backdrop because, of course, you yourself are very active on the social scene, and you have a wildly successful podcast, which I was on last year, and thank you very much. So where are you talking to us from? So
we're based in Leicester at the moment. So I spend my time between here and Irvine in California. But at the moment, I'm in our sunny Leicester office.
Very good. And you're a Leicester man, aren't you? You're originally from there.
Yes. Yeah, I started working the local market. All my businesses have started here. It's a bit of a funny place to probably do a startup, but it's worked for me, definitely.
So you get a chance then to put a bit of money back into the local economy and hire local people then, which is really important.
Yeah, there's two really good universities in Leicester. So we hire from there. And I generally find a lot of the hires in unique places. My best hires come from unique places, not from LinkedIn or Indeed. My best hires come from restaurants, bars, cafes, just generally places where I get really good service, and I'll see a standout person and I'll be like, hey, do you ever think about leaving this place? I think you'll do really good in the tech world. So I have a different view on hiring to most tech companies.
So, and it's worked for you?
My best hires are, so this is the funniest one. There used to be this, one of my first staff was a cloakroom attendant in a nightclub. And now he's the second in charge of our Australia office.
Are you serious?
And he's been with me for 10 years. Yeah. And, our head of sales used to work in a bar. I really do think if you can be good in customer service and handle stress and still be able to operate at a high level, you can definitely very easily transition into tech.
That's brilliant. Well, you've just proved the point. So that makes perfect sense. Callum, let's talk about Reviews.io. I have followed your story, and you really did start it in your bedroom, I suppose, for the want of a better term, or in your kitchen table with your wife. I know that you recently had some success. You managed to get investment and take some money out of the business, as they say. So you started Reviews.io 12 years ago. Now, the majority of people that are in the Shopify ecosystem were probably in primary school at that time. So
yes.
Can you give us a flavour for how on earth you found that niche in the review space for e-commerce?
So I started out as an online I didn't. I actually started out as a marketing and development agency, and .com crash came along, lost all my customers, and I built a site for somebody and they didn't pay, so I just operated it for a little while. And so I was a store owner, I was a merchant, and I ended up selling that business. And I went back into development And I didn't want to work in consumer facing, selling goods anymore on the internet. So I wanted to work in the SaaS area. So one of the biggest problems in the business that I was operating, which was an online appliances retailer, appliances.co.uk. And one of the big things there was reviews. And there was no one really doing reviews then. We had to literally build a whole ecosystem, a whole e-commerce environment right through to the paywall right from the start, SSL, everything. We had to build it. There was no Shopify.
Hardship.
So I should have launched Shopify. I feel like I built it in 2007. But yeah, and one of the biggest factors was trust. We built a review platform around that company. And then literally when I was looking for a new business to do in the SaaS space, reviews was my second choice. It wasn't my first choice.
So what was your first?
Yeah.
What was the first?
It was an affiliate fraud detection solution. At the time, there was a lot of fraud going on in the affiliate space with massive retailers. And I identified how to spot those people. And I went to Carphone Warehouse and nobody cared. It was ridiculous. My idea fell on deaf ears. And literally on the way out, I was trying to talk to them about anything and just to not get kicked out of the meeting. And I went, I've got a review solution. They went, bring it back next week. So I did. And we actually, that's still one of our clients, which is mobiles.co.uk and E2Save, which is owned by Carphone Warehouse, now Dixon's. So yeah.
So at that particular time though, what was your background? Did you have a development background? Or did you, when you were building out that e-commerce platform and also building out the reviews platform, were you a one-man show? How did you operate?
So yeah, I had a business management background, and I self-taught myself to develop these tools. But a lot of it I had to, the original MVP, I had to outsource some of that development. And as soon as I had a little bit of traction, I went and built a very small team, sold my car. I built a very small team around myself. And, two of those team members are still working for us now, 12 years later.
And if you look now at the review space versus then, were you pushing water up a hill? I mean, you had to explain what what it was to everybody.
I was very, very lucky. And this is, I was very, very lucky that I had a competitor in a company called Trustpilot, which everybody knows in the UK. I was very, very lucky that they kind of went out and educated the UK businesses. And literally, I sort of, like a cyclist does it, I tucked in behind them and let them kind of take me along. But yeah, I kind of let them do the education. And then I came in and said, well, actually, yes, you do need that. They've educated you correctly, but we can do this better. And they were only doing company reviews, whereas we were doing product reviews, service reviews, and everything else. So we had a much wider solution, but they did the education piece because the education piece is very, very expensive.
Did you have second mover advantages? Does that even exist?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Second movers, probably one of the biggest advantages. I wouldn't have been able to do it without their hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds educating the market. I used to fight with them a lot more than I do now. They were a lot more aggressive than they are now.
You used to publicly fight with them, if I remember correctly.
I'd publicly name and shame them. They'd send me cease and desists. I'd send them cease and desists. It was ridiculous.
Gosh, it's funny because they have 700 staff now. It's a massive, massive organization. For a lot of, I always wonder why, for a lot of bricks and mortar retailers, Trustpilot is the go-to reviews platform.
Yeah,
you've just explained it. They basically had the
cold call.
Yeah, so they had the market cornered.
Yeah, they're on it. They are. Yeah, they're very aggressive sales team. Yeah. Super aggressive. Once they get a telephone number, they call it. They'll get, a couple of negative reviews on a store. They'll bombard that store with calls until that store signs up.
Yeah.
And kind of, I position myself as the alternative. And the alternative isn't a bad way to be when you're in what was looked on back then as a real small industry, but turned out to be a $1 billion industry.
So roll on then. If you're 5 or 6 years into reviews.io, where were you? What were you at? Were you happy with the success of it? Were you still, if you look back on it now, were you still only getting started?
We're still only getting started. Yeah, definitely. We're nowhere near happy. I think there's, at that point, there was still a long way to go.
Yeah. And is Shopify your preferred platform, Callum?
By miles. We worked on Magento for years, and they were constantly evolving their API and making changes and they were causing their app developers and their agencies so much work that eventually everybody got sick of it, and Shopify learned from that, and they don't really do that.
Yeah, it's amazing that a single platform that, SaaS businesses like yourselves can hang their hat on a single platform.
Yeah.
I was at a commerce conference in Ireland recently, and it's only when you go to these large conferences that you realize that in actual fact, while you're living in the Shopify ecosystem, there is still an awful lot of people eating out of ecosystems, built by other platforms.
Yeah, we're agnostic, so we work with everyone.
Yeah.
But 90% of our business really is on Shopify or moving to Shopify.
So Callum, everybody is expecting API access and full integrations now to a suite of Shopify apps the minute they move on to Shopify. So has a company like yours had to invest and constantly invest to keep up with that over the last couple of years? Because one of the first things I noticed that our own team will do is before they install anything is see what integrations are available.
Yeah, we're non-stop. We have 13 developers here working on our Shopify integration, around the clock. We never stop iterating and making changes to that Shopify integration to make it better every day. A lot of the changes you can't see because they'll be speed related or just for uptime or making it more efficient. And some of those changes are feature changes.
So, you took on investment there recently. So would it be correct to say that that is part of the reason that you kind of needed some cash? Obviously, it's a reflection on the success of the business because somebody wanted to invest. But I hear, that the money required to just stay on top of tech and bandwidth and exactly what you discussed it's infinite in some cases.
Yeah, we basically sold the majority of the business to a company called AppHub. AppHub owned several apps. They were doing a roll-up of multiple apps. They were a good company, a good partner to work with. I needed to take, I felt it was the right time for me to take some chips off the table. We didn't need any money. We were very profitable when we did that deal. It was more, I've got 4 children, one who's not very well, and I needed to make their life secure. I'd happily would have stayed independent, and I wrestled with it a lot, but I had to take some chips off the table for those guys. That I couldn't risk going back to zero for those guys. So when Apple came along, they made a good offer. I accepted, and looking back, it was still the right decision to do. I sold at the height, which was start of 2022 before the oil prices got readjusted. But yeah, we didn't need to sell to maintain our dev team. Some companies do, but we built a very efficient machine. We were always about, profit and running a good business and being lean. We don't do all the big shows. I think they waste a lot of money. We watch every penny. We've always had a really, really good accounts team.
I was delighted when I saw the news. Thanks, Callum. Just hold that thought for one moment while we listen to our sponsors. Rewind.io is the leading data backup solution for your Shopify store. Did you know that there is no way of recovering lost data in Shopify? If your store is gaining traction, you may have multiple staff or third-party developers entering your store. Mistakes can happen and data can be easily deleted. Rewind.io puts you in control of your data, allowing you to restore anything accidentally lost from a single image to an entire store. It acts as a pretty cheap insurance policy for your Shopify account. At Milk Bottle, we help clients reduce their business risk by installing Rewind in every single store before we make any changes. Get your first month for free by simply replying to your sign-up email. Now, you mentioned your family, and I follow you on the socials, and you're very active. Philanthropy is really important to you. It's a delight to read the amount of effort that you're putting into it. And I know that you're very much focused on investing in finding cures for rare mitochondrial diseases. And you mentioned your son, who I know his name is Hudson. I'd love to just share Hudson's situation, I suppose it would be one way to describe it. And then your effort and the energy that you've put into that over the last few years, because it's a really nice story. I
always said whenever I had any success, I wanted to share it. And it wasn't just for me. I don't believe that entrepreneurs should act like that. They should, these are some of the smartest people in the room. They should be using their brain power to help people once they're in that position to do that. So Hudson's 6 years old. When he was 2, we identified that he had a very rare mitochondrial disease. That means we don't know his life expectancy, but it means he doesn't walk and talk. And yeah, very, very tough. So I try and look at things out there that aren't good, like things that Hudson can't do. And then I try and make them all accessible for all people. So I do the Santa's Inclusive Grotto for 4,000 people every year. And that's where, all disabled children can come and visit Santa in a nice environment that's calm and accessible. And then we do investments in research in the US and in the UK. And the other thing is that what we're trying to do is you don't realize how expensive some of this equipment is that these kids use, and the government really are stretched. They're not, providing probably as much equipment as they should be. So we're looking at ways on how we can, equipment where the patents have expired, that we can then produce much cheaper than it's being produced right now. So, or we're producing equipment with small variants, so we're not infringing any patent, and we can just make it at a fraction of the price that's out there now.
So Callum, your approach is long term.
Yeah, very long term.
It's not a quick fix, or it's not a charity donation, or obviously there's the events involved, but it's strategic.
Yeah. So what I did, I read a lot about how people make donations and what people do. And I loved what Bill Gates gets a lot of abuse for the donations that he makes, because he does expect a return on if they're not donations, his investments in medical research.
Yeah.
But actually what he did with malaria, where he picked one disease and with a very narrow focus and went out with an aim to cure that disease globally. And I thought that was very smart. I read a lot about how he did it, how he found him, how he did that focus. And I thought that's, if I'm gonna do donations and I'm gonna do philanthropy, that's what I want to do. I want to really focus this on one small area. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the research we're doing in the US.
And Callum, out of all of the effort and all of the hours you've spent over the last few years in it, is there any significant win that you've had that you're delighted with?
Yeah, a massive one, to be honest. For the last couple of years, we've been waiting with our fingers crossed for this drug to get approved. And finally, in February, it got approved after a couple of years. And that drug's completely amazing. We've been testing it on mice in the US. And you see these mice, they've got a disease called Friedreich's ataxia. And they're all, their muscles are all really tight and they can't walk. And we give them this drug, and within a couple of days, they're up and about walking. And it's not stem cell, it's purely a drug. It's going to help so many people. It's approved now in the US. I speak to people daily who are like around Europe, and I'm like trying to work out a way how to get them into the US to get this drug. I've got an Italian guy reached out to me yesterday on Twitter and said, Callum, is the drug there? And I'm saying, we've been told it's going to be available this August. It was meant to be April, but it's going to be available in August. But now I'm trying to work out how I can get this Italian gentleman's daughter into the US. And then if I get her in, can we get her the drug?
Yeah.
So there's all things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's truly amazing.
So there must be a serious sense of satisfaction, Callum, when you get that kind of communication from, I wouldn't call them random strangers, because I'm assuming that there's a very large community of families that are in your situation as well, is there? Yeah.
I mean, my wife runs the group for Hudson's disease. Hudson's disease is very, very rare. Friedreich's ataxia is much more common, but Hudson's disease is very rare. We identified 53 people globally with his disease, and we have them all on a WhatsApp group, and we me and my wife kind of manage it. And, when the kids get sick, we try and make sure that the hospitals that those kids are in, we get them in touch with our scientists and the doctors that we work with in Cincinnati and Buffalo. And then we get those doctors to speak to the hospitals where those kids are.
Perfect. Great. Callum, in terms of the latest buzzword, ChatGPT, Chrome extensions, the amount of guys on Twitter that are sharing ChatGPT cheats and ways to change your life using AI. I know that you've been onto it, not ChatGPT, but you've been on AI for a long, long time. So, yeah. And it is a buzzword, and everybody is putting it now at the end of their business names. But I know that you've been quite serious about it for a few years, and you also launched something recently. So can you give us your take? Give us what kind of feature set is now sitting in reviews.io and your take on it.
So normally, whenever these buzzwords come along, like blockchain, crypto, Web3, I normally investigate and I go, this is totally nonsense. It's going to have no major effect. But with AI and ChatGPT, it's going to be huge. This is the dawn of the mobile phone. This is the dawn of the internet. This is probably bigger than the mobile phone, to be honest. The smartphone. There is going to be businesses built off the back of some of the technology that's coming out that are going to be $billion businesses, without doubt. And I think every business is going to be affected by AI. That said, there's a lot of fake AI, which is not AI. It's machine learning. It's not true AI. There is a clear distinction between the two. And we've done machine learning for years, but what OpenAI and ChatGPT came out with was really groundbreaking when you saw it. And I don't think there's anybody who's used it who's not gone, that's amazing. That's going to change the world. And what we're doing at Reviews, so we get a lot of data in. So we're going to use AI. Well, we're already using AI to identify fake reviews, and we're using AI to analyze the reviews as they're written. So businesses can make more informed decisions quicker, and we can identify fraudulent reviewers in a much faster, more efficient, cost-effective way.
So that's
I think.
So yeah, Callum, that's effectively you using AI to potentially fight somebody else using AI or bots. Would that be right?
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, the bots, AI is quite unique that you can't, if I asked AI to write me a review of this water bottle, it'd do a great copy of it and you could then publish it. But what an AI is not doing is tapping the keyboard. And so what we're looking at is keystroke biometrics, things like that. To also identify that people are tapping the keyboards, how long they're holding the S button for, how long, the space in between the buttons, how long they're holding the buttons and everything else. And that's really giving us the picture of a unique person instead of someone going control paste.
Yeah. Wow. Callum, before we go, anything exciting planned for the rest of the year that you can share with us?
So yeah, well, we're doing a lot with AI on the understanding of reviews and what insights they can give you. So, for example, we've literally trained our own AI model with every review. So we've got about 25 million reviews at the minute. They're all in that model, and we're understanding things very, very quickly. So, for instance, if a product keeps getting returned, we can see that from Shopify. But actually, using the review and a one-star review, couple of one-star reviews, we can actually say clearly why and give that department that information, that product team, right, this is the reason why that's getting returned. The red isn't truly red, or, this product isn't fit for the purpose described in your description. So you've got a mismatch. And you can do that with sizing. So if a piece of clothing is coming back, so we work with a clothing retailer in the UK, really big one. And we're doing stuff with them at the minute where on returns, on understanding why that return is actually happening. So one, they can improve the product or they could stop selling it. So what they've previously done is gone, let's remove this from the range, where actually it doesn't need to be removed from range. AI and the reviews can actually tell them why, what improvements to make to actually have it as a good product. And things like that are becoming really, really interesting. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that over the next 12 months from us.
Yeah, that would be very, very important in the fashion industry, wouldn't it?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
So we just worked. We ran that model, that insights model on a retailer, and we found that the packaging on one product was damaging their reputation quite massively. And we went and showed them the data that we had, and they were like, it's like a penny's fix.
Yeah.
They had no identity. I mean, this is a $1 billion retailer, so they were just suffering all these returns on this product for something that was so easy to fix. It just needed one little corner cardboard piece putting in the packaging, and it was fixed. So yeah, we've got a lot of that. We're going to launch that out to all of our clients, later on in the year. And we think that'll have a massive impact on their businesses. I'm hoping to be able to get it down in price so that there's no additional price for it. So it's just built in as a feature. And we think that might have a huge effect on people's businesses.
Absolutely. And then it turns out then that a reviews app could potentially save massive money on returns and inventory and customer experience. It's just, the net benefit of that is, for some businesses, is probably immeasurable. We have a fashion client in the UK, and about 33% of their orders are currently being returned. Women are just purchasing 2 and 3 of an item.
But that's a massive problem as well. So identifying that person has done that multiple times on multiple different stores is actually something that I think is important, because you've got these serial returners. How do stores handle them? I think that's a very difficult question, but I think it does need to be handled, because I don't think stores like ASOS, Boohoo can be sustainable without that. You've got a lot of problems going on in the world, around environmental impact of returns.
Yeah.
And hopefully, there's got to be some solutions that can help resolve that.
Absolutely. Well, Callum, it was an absolute pleasure to have you and to finally get a chance to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us.
No, thank you, Keith. Honestly, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. A special note of appreciation goes to our sponsors, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify store owners. Get your first month of Rewind for free by simply responding to any welcome email once you sign up for your free trial on Rewind.io. If you're a Shopify user with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on podcast@milkbottlelabs.com. Until the next time, take care.